Welcome to the Dynasty Happy Hour podcast. Pull up a chair and kick up your feet as you get ready to enjoy some of the industry's most entertaining and actionable Dynasty content on the planet. We're talking veterans, rookies, sleepers, and oh yeah, you know the crew has those dad jokes ready for you. So let's not wait any longer and bring on the host or some combination of Doug and Tyler.
Welcome back to the Dynasty Happy Hour. I am your host, Doug Eddy, here with my co-host, Tyler Gunther. Two-man box. First time in a long time here on DHH, where it's just the two of us.
Yeah.
We
last
can do
time,
this podcast if we try.
Last time it was an actual, legit two-man box was when it first started. It was with me and Chris Whitman, and now here we are. It's me and Doug Eddy. Just two of us. We're gonna roll the rest of the year, see how it goes. But I think it's gonna be a good thing.
Yeah, I don't mind it whatsoever. I think it'll be good. I'm used to the old two-man box when I did the Trophy Time podcast for you OGs that remember that one with my brother-in-law Josh Trotta. That was a lot of fun, and I like a three-man box, but a two-man box is good too. So I am here for it. It'll be a lot of fun. We've been podcasting long enough. We talk all the time on the internets and whatnot. We're in leagues together, so lots of fun info to share. And we have differentiating opinions on players, which is always the best part. We don't just always agree with each other. I mean, sometimes we do, for sure. But we value players differently and have a different approach to Dynasty, which I think makes for good in an entertaining listen and an informative listen, because we can both make cases on each side, typically, unless Tyler's completely wrong, which happens.
It happens a lot. And
we both get it wrong.
So I want to start off the podcast. I'm putting the cart before the horse. Here we go.
It's the
have
horse.
Have you seen?
No,
have you seen any of this Drake May hate from every single damn person in the world?
Not every single person, because Tim Hasselbeck loves Drake May. He said he is a top 5 quarterback in the last 5 years for him. But if you listen to another ex-NFL quarterback, Kirk Benkert, who did nothing, he thinks Drake May is a juiced-up Mason Rudolph.
Yeah.
Which is like...
I saw that.
Yikes.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go with Tim Hasselbeck here, because Tim Hasselbeck was... they've been talking about it here on local sports radio, that Tim Hasselbeck called Mac Jones, that Mac Jones was like, he's at Alabama, he's got weapons all around him, but he's just not... He didn't think he was all that great, and come to find out, Mac Jones isn't all that great. So I think I'm going to lean Tim Hasselbeck. I think Drake May is a lesser version of Justin Herbert, and that's not a bad thing.
But it's the same thing that's happening. Herbert, during the combine and everything, everybody's like, he's not a first-round pick. He doesn't know how to read the field. All he wants to do is throw it deep. It's literally everything that Drake May is going through, and they are the exact same quarterback when it comes to stylistic-wise. I love Drake May. I think I have him above Jane Daniels. Jane Daniels for fantasy, on the other hand, might be ahead of him. But the thing with Jane Daniels is, his forearms are as big as my wrist. He's a tiny, tiny dude. And
Lamar's not a big guy.
Yeah, Jane Daniels is 204 at 6'4". We're talking thin. And Drake May has all the tools, and he is my love child this draft. And
just
Doug,
like you loved Herbert.
I loved Herbert.
And Jordan Love. You love Jordan Love too.
Yes.
So.
And I absolutely love I've actually really liked them for a long time. But just with everybody hating on him now, it just is making it so much more.
I think a lot of the hate is a lot like when we saw people crapping on USC receivers, because they're like, they would see a USC receiver and they'd be like, oh no, he's no good.
Mike Williams didn't work.
Well, then of course they've turned that corner now with USC receivers. There's no problem with those guys. But I think it's the same thing, because people see Mitch Trubisky went there. Oh, Sam Howell went there. Drake May, he's going to follow the path. I actually don't think Sam Howell is that bad. There's actually been a lot of trade rumors about Sam Howell this week, that teams are inquiring about him, and Washington might be looking to get a third-round pick back, which for them would be
ROI.
Trading up 2 rounds, more or less. And for whatever team gets him, maybe he's the bridge guy, but he's on a 5th-round rookie deal, which is nothing. So a team like the Patriots, who Sam Howell played well against, by the way, Sam Howell going to the Pats, maybe they choose the cheap quarterback route. They draft Marvin Harrison at 3, or they trade down. I don't. I'm fascinated with what the Patriots are going to do.
I think they're trading down.
I don't want them to.
I mean, think about
They
this.
might need to, though.
Yeah, think about this. They need a lot. They need
Yeah, they
a
do.
lot. And Chicago 2 years ago needed a lot. And yeah, Chicago fell into, kind of being like, hey, Carolina, trade up. They did. Carolina sucks.
Yeah, they do.
And so Chicago lucked into that. But if the Patriots trade back and the team that they trade back with, ends up top 10 again, this quarterback class is legit to the point where even Ian Rapport has said teams are going to have to give 3 first-round picks that are in the top 10 already.
It's like a Trey Lance deal.
Atlanta would have to trade probably 2 first plus a second plus some
Maybe
other
player.
stuff. So I think that's the destination. I think they're going to go to 8. I think Patriots will go to 8. Atlanta trades up to 3. Atlanta takes Drake May. Hopefully, that'd be a dream scenario. I'd cry, maybe, possibly. Of course, I would. Yes.
Yes, you would.
Yeah. So I think personally they're trading, but are we locked in that the top 3 picks are quarterbacks?
No.
All right.
I mean, they probably will be though. But
Arizona's prime because Malik Neighbors and Marv are literally neck and neck for wide receiver 1. So if Marv goes at 3 to Patriots, Arizona's not blinking an eye. They're just like, okay, we'll go Neighbors. Like, oh
Probably.
shucks, oh shucks.
No, you're probably right about that. But anywho, we did put the cart in front of the horse a little bit there, and that's okay.
We can talk.
We can go off the rails. It's fine. We are here to talk the tight end dynasty landscape. My favorite position. I've had a lot of success with tight ends over the years, touting them on this show. Sam LaPorta, thank you very much. I'm a tight end guy. I don't know what it is. It seems to be my niche that I can sniff them out and find the good ones, which is always a good thing. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, how the landscape is changing at the tight end position, because it is. If you look at some of the ADP information, it is beautiful, and I'll give you my overview on that here shortly. But yeah, we're starting to see some of the the combine is this week, which is awesome. I'm looking forward to it, even though Marv's not going to test, Caleb's not throwing, Jaden Daniels isn't throwing. There's still a lot of depth and a lot of guys that I'm excited to see. Because I think there's like almost 40 receivers at the combine this year. So there's a lot. So there's going to be some guys that are going to get on people's maps that, maybe it's Malachi Corley or, who
Troy
knows?
Franklin runs a 4.29 and
there's
absolutely
going to be someone that stands out. And I think the tight end group is going to be one
Wilson.
of them too. Yeah, the tight end group I think is going to be one of them too. We know Brock Bowers and Jatavian Sanders are the top 2 guys, but I think there's going to be some prospects in that from 3 to 6. I think there's going to be some guys that move into that range just based on how they test, because with tight end, it's the most proven formula in fantasy football is if a tight end is athletic, that's what you want to chase. That will get you there, because if a tight end is athletic, the success rate is pretty darn high, unless you're a Zach Kuntz from the Jets. I mean, it was only his rookie year last year, but we'll never know. But, I mean, that's what got me onto guys like George Kittle, Sam LaPorta in the past. Guys that Dawson Knox is another one, which you may laugh now, but he has had some tight end 1 seasons.
Yeah, like 9 touchdowns his year 2. Yeah,
so, I mean, I love Dawson Knox because of the athleticism. These guys didn't do a lot in college. Kittle, Knox, and LaPorta, they didn't have these crazy numbers because of the offenses that they were in. And we're going to find guys like that again this year. So it's something to keep your eye out for, especially at the tight end position. And I'm excited for this running back group too. I know there's no elite Bijans or Jahmyr Gibbs, but I think there's a lot of guys that can go between like round 3 and 5 that I'm going to be interested in, because we just know the running back landscape is different than it has been in the past. Running backs aren't going to go in the first round this year. The first running back might not be until pick 50s.
You want to know? So early look. I haven't done too much tape, but I really like Brandon Allen. And you know what it is?
Braylon Allen?
Braylon Allen.
Yeah. I do too.
He's 20.
Young.
Yeah, he's young. He just turned 20.
So today, there was a report that Green Bay is looking to add a bigger back to go with Aaron Jones.
Keep him in state.
Keep him in state. We know A.J. Dillon, that experiment didn't work. They're not going to bring him back. But that would be a perfect compliment to Aaron Jones to draft him in the.
He's huge.
The Packers don't. The Packers can invest in defense, and maybe they draft a running back in the second or third round. Like they don't need receivers,
Yeah.
they don't need tight ends, like they don't need a quarterback. They have luxury to go after other positions.
I think there's a chance that we see 0 running backs until late second, maybe even early third. But
I'd say pick 55 to 60.
But then once one goes, then you're gonna see people trading up, taking them, and moving up for these guys like the Blake Corum and who honestly is my RB1B probably.
Okay.
I love his running style, but yeah, it's gonna be very interesting. I'm finally digging into the draft class. I had a kind of a lull this year, and I wasn't sure if I was gonna feel it, but man, starting to listen to podcasts and starting to watch a little more tape myself, starting to get the feels again. But I'm gonna do what I did last year.
Tyler froze, so I don't know what he did last year, but that's okay. But yeah, the depth at these positions is pretty good, especially in your rookie drafts. Like I know one thing that I'm glad I have multiple second round picks in a lot of leagues because it looks like there's going to be a lot of value in that second round, which is great because of the depth at wide receiver, the depth at quarterback. You're going to be able to kind of restock your running back room. If you had a couple of mid seconds, you're going to be able to get the running back 2, 3, 4 off the board here, which is nice. I have some teams where I'm in that situation. I'm good at other positions. I have a couple of second round picks. Like, okay, I can invest in maybe if Trey Benson has a good landing spot or, Jonathan Brooks, guys like that. So that's why I like this draft class. And, even third round picks, I think are going to be nice and valuable this year. It's a fun little class with good depth at a lot of positions. So, yeah. So anyway, the combine. So, we're already starting to see reports of coaches talking. Here's what I will tell you. You're going to see on Twitter the Roto World blurbs of like, blah, 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 this player. Rashad Bateman's going to get more targets, yada, yada, yada. Here's what I would say. Take it with a grain of salt. Probably 10% of it is true. There's no way that John Harbaugh right now is going to say, oh, we're going to get Rashad Bateman more targets in September in February. Like, we don't know if they draft another receiver. They very well could. Like, I don't know. I don't put any weight into any of that stuff. The stuff that I put weight into and what I've adjusted over the years is the stuff like last year. So if there's a report that comes out that says Jaden Daniels talked to the Commanders and wanted them to draft this wide receiver, yeah, I'm going to put weight into that because that's what got me onto Tank Dell. Like, as soon as I heard, like, oh, CJ Stroud was advocating to, like, draft this guy. I want this guy. Okay. Like, I will definitely, that's like, it's actions versus words, right? There's actions there. Like, their new franchise quarterback is like, oh, I want you to draft this player. I want him on my team. We're close. That's all I needed to know for me to invest in Tank Dell. And, he ended up going up in the late second, early third. And I got him in a few leagues there because I was like, you know what? I'm going to follow that kind of verbiage, not the verbiage of Rashad Bateman getting more targets 6 or 7 months from now.
So I was listening to a podcast today and I heard somebody say like Harbaugh wants to go get JJ McCarthy and that's like one of those eye roll situations. You're gonna have a lot of those like during this time. I also heard that the Commanders are run like a basketball team because they have a lot of basketball people there. They
do, yeah.
I would not be shocked if a big name receiver,
Victor Wembanyama, wide receiver,
a big name receiver goes to the Commanders with Jane Daniels. I would not be shocked if, say, a T. Higgins gets traded for, or they trade for like an AJ Brown, disgruntled guy, same conference. Yeah. Like, yeah, to me, it just seems like Magic Johnson's like, hey, let's go big. Let's get our big three, just like the Heat, and we go win titles.
If it only works so easily.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
you need a little more than that, buddy.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see with that front office and see how that works. Eric Bieniemy only lasted 1 year there. Now he's in college, which is wild to me.
Also, Ben Johnson's the one that said they run like a basketball team, and he might have left that place a little bitter.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's definitely an interesting – I don't know how you can apply a team of 12 players to a team of 53 and see how it works. I mean, you can have a great quarterback Like, but you need more than that, like in this league, and
Yeah.
you got to play defense too. And it's not like you have Michael Jordan who's elite at offense and elite at defense. He's one guy. Like there's no two-way players in the NFL anymore. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that works out. If it blows up in their face, or if it actually like maybe they're onto something. But no idea. But it's Washington, and yeah, they've got a history of things blowing up in their face. So, Dan Snyder, hello.
I think Daniels is the pick for Commanders if they can't trade up to take Caleb.
Yeah. I mean, well, there's a lot of rumors that the Bears might move number 1.
Yeah.
And, I mean, if they get a huge return like they did again, I get it, and they don't trade Fields. Maybe they kick the can down the road another year.
Yeah. I honestly hear that it would take like Pat Surtain from the Broncos, their first this year, next year, and the year after. So we're talking an all-star corner and 3 first.
Oof.
And I know that's a lot, but in order to get your quarterback,
I mean,
is it worth it?
Denver, I mean, they gave up a lot to get Sean Payton. They gave up a lot to get Russell Wilson. And the reports this week from that relationship, holy smokes. Russell Wilson was on, I don't know what podcast he was on, but just listening to him talk about like Sean Payton reaming him a new butthole on the sideline and Russell Wilson not pushing back so they wouldn't hit him with a conduct detriment to the team, which could void his contract, is scary. Like,
well, that's Russ for you.
Well, I know that's Russ, but at the same time, like, can you imagine be like, yeah, I'm just going to take it and I'm just going to take the higher road? Because he knows if he mouthed off, like, they could be like, nope, contract detrimental and we're out of your contract. Like, that's a...
Oh, Peyton and everybody in that organization is behind it. Like, they probably talked to Peyton. They're like, hey, get under his skin. You know what? Russ doesn't have skin to get under. You want to know why?
I think he's a lizard.
So, you know that alien that tiny alien in Men in Black that's, like, in the guy's head? That's what Russ is. And there's just somebody in there controlling him like, oh, nope.
He's a lizard person, like in They Live. Classic yes. Roddy Piper film, by the way. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's extremely relevant in today's society.
I'm guessing it is.
Yeah, it very much is. It's crazy. A lot of things they made, 30, 40 years ago, and you're like, oh, this is really applicable today. Yikes.
Yeah.
Who was looking in the crystal ball when they wrote this? Anywho, I am ready to talk some tight end talk. What about you, Tyler?
I'm ready. Let's talk tight ends.
I'm going to give you so I don't want to pat myself on the back too hard, but I did have a conversation with my brother-in-law before the draft last year, or maybe not around this time, but maybe in March. And it was definitely after the combine. And I said, Sam LaPorta is the guy that I'm going to target. I really believe in him. I ended up trading up in multiple drafts to get him.
You almost had him full. I remember that because James Cook was my one player away from having full rostership. And I remember you told me you were like 2 away from LaPorta. And that was like late May, early June.
Yep. So, and I was talking to him and he's like, Doug, he's like, tight ends in their rookie year, they don't hit. And I said, this class has the chance to be different. I said, I really believe in LaPorta. I like Michael Mayer. I like Musgrave. I really like Kincaid. Kincaid ended up being the most spendy of all of them. He was a late first rounder, mid to late, actually. He was like 107 to 110 typically. So for me, it was sensing the currents of noticing that there's the tight end position is older. Travis Kelce, George Kittle, even Mark Andrews, he's not ancient. He's in his late 20s. He's not over the hill or anything like that. But we're seeing like these older guys. To me, this last year's class was a transitional class at the position.
Thank God.
And then knowing that we have Brock Bowers in this class, who's been, the all-world prospect for years at Georgia, coming into this class, I kind of went with the currents, and I was like, you know what? I think this is the year where we start to see the tight end landscape change. And sure as hell, it has. Sam LaPorta finished as the tight end 1 on the season, which even shocked me. I didn't expect that. Now he's the tight end 1 in Dynasty startups. He's going, I think, 29th overall.
Yep.
And there's only room for improvement with LaPorta, in my opinion. For a rookie tight end to do what he did, he set records with, the touchdowns and, receptions, not yardage. But to me, there's even more of a ceiling for LaPorta in the future. And then we saw guys like Dalton Kincaid really start to come on strong as the year went on and be more of a focus. Dawson Knox Still on the field a lot, but not really contributing. Dalton Kincaid, especially look at the Bills' future. We don't know what's going on with Stephon Diggs. Gabe Davis is a free agent. There could be even more targets for Dalton Kincaid in year 2. We saw Luke Musgrave flash. We saw Tucker Kraft, who replaced Musgrave after he had that freak injury.
Yeah.
He looked really good. We saw flashes from Michael Mayer in an offense where there's some aging veterans, Devontae Adams for one. They've got Jacoby Myers as their 2. So there's going to be targets there for Michael Mayer in year 2. We just saw a lot of these tight ends really step up to the plate as rookies. And it's something that the position desperately needed, Tyler.
No, I completely agree. Even like Trey McBride's rise midway through the season. Thank you, Doug. And everybody in this damn world, I thought about that. So I thought about that damn trade on the way to work one day, and I got so pissed off because it was 2 days before he broke out. I traded McBride. 2 damn days. You know what? We're explicit now, Doug, on iTunes, so we're going old school. I was fucking pissed.
I mean, you did get Michael Mayer back, but
thank you.
Mirror, we did get Trey McBride. So,
but yeah, his rise, and I think we all. I've been a big Trey McBride guy, and I really was hoping this was going to happen earlier, but thank goodness it happened. T.J. Hawkinson coming out of nowhere, being tight end 1, and then getting hurt, which sucks. By the way, that Sam LaPorta injury in the playoffs, or right before, thank goodness he did not tear every ligament in his knee, because that looked bad. Didn't miss a damn game.
That's Iowa strong.
And then we got guys like Kyle Pitts, who still has a ceiling. Doug, before we started, you were even like, hey, wasn't that his first year with like Matt Ryan? All they need is a quarterback that's competent. And yes, this is a Sean McVay offense, and I would look at a J.J. McCarthy. I would look at a Kirk Cousins. I'm not sure they would go a Jane Daniels. I'm not even sure they would go Justin Fields, just because of the fit in this offense. They want somebody who can run this offense. I'm terrified it's Bo Nix. I hope to God it's not Bo Nix, but right. Yeah. So Kyle Pitts could be wheels up. They're talking positive about him, and they just cut Jonnu Smith, which is a huge plus.
50 catches for Jonnu last year, which is wild to me.
So Kyle Pitts will have a better season. This is huge. David Njoku, career year after 6 years of
so much promise,
kind of teeter-tottering.
Yeah,
back and forth. David Njoku, a lot of people say he's like a blue chip player now. The way he played last year is like, this guy is legit. I
mean, they paid him.
The thing with Njoku, he always had these odd injuries, but then he burns,
like falling into a fire.
That's yes, an odd injury. No, yeah. I was gonna say, like, before he would miss games for like these tiny injuries.
He would get dinged up. Yeah,
he falls in a fire and he keeps playing throughout the year.
And he wears an Army of Two mask to the stadium.
Oh my God,
going back to back and popping shots off everywhere.
I was just like, okay, this guy's always injured. Oh, he's got a tweaked hamstring. He's out for like 4 games, and then he falls in fire and he's playing forever. So Njoku, I think, is up there with the tight ends. And we're not even mentioning guys like Musgrave, Michael Mayer, who I think is going to break out. Like, this is the resurgence we needed. And you know what I was thinking as you're talking? We had Kelsey and Gronk for years being right up there, 1 and 2. Who are you going to take? 1, 2, Gronk, Kelsey, who cares? They're both good. LaPorta style, a lot like Gronk to me. The way he runs after the catch, and
And McBride is a lot like Kelsey.
I was going to say Kincaid is a lot like Kelsey, the way he moves, but McBride...
Watching McBride and the way that he played this year with some of the catches that he made, the attitude that he plays with, like the
Kittle.
attitude.
There's Kittle for you right there.
Yeah, he's just not as explosive. I would say he comes closer to Kelsey in play style. And this is, again, typically what we would see in Dynasty fantasy football is tight ends would take a few years. Look, it took Cole Kmet. He was the first tight end off the board a few years ago. It took him a while to break out.
People still hate him.
And he's been a top 10 tight end the last 2 years. There's no reason to hate Cole Kmet. He's very, very good. But, we're not used to this year one. I mean, Kyle Pitts, he broke out in year 1, and then year 2 and 3, he broke down because of the offense.
Yeah, and his knee.
And his knee. But we're not used to this. And that was my argument with Josh, was like, look, I think this year can be different. I just feel it. And, it's just one of those sixth sense kind of things when you and I went in with a lot of conviction. Now, it could have bit me in the ass. I could have Sam LaPorta everywhere, and he wasn't good, and I had egg on my face. But it didn't, and I'm fortunate for that. That I, sometimes with players, like you trusted your gut with Jordan Love and Justin Herbert and James Cook and Dante Moncrief and guys like that. Sorry. You know what? Sometimes you trust your gut and it works out well. Sometimes you trust your gut and you draft Samaje Perine over Alvin Kamara. It happens.
Hey, I took Alvin Kamara over Perine. So, hey, that's literally...
At least one of us did.
That's each end of the spectrum in Dynasty. And that's like, we were talking on Trade Addicts. There's a chat thing. And for Dynasty Game Night, they want us to fill out a survey. And when I did, one was like, what's your favorite part about Dynasty? And it's like taking chances on your guys, trading for your guys at their lowest point, and then watching, like, my favorite thing is watching that value just go up and up and up. Like Jordan Love on Dynasty Nerds GM was at like 1,800 maybe. He is now 8,000. That is literally 8 times his value.
Yeah, he went from like QB 20 something to QB like top 12.
Yeah, he's like 8 now.
Yeah,
he's above Trevor Lawrence, and you'd be crazy for thinking that. So it's fun. It's fun doing that. Like taking Herbert, late, and then watching his value go up to a top 3 quarterback. Now he's falling apart because nobody wants to trust Jim Harbaugh in that offense. You know what, guys? He's still a stud quarterback, and Jim Harbaugh had stud fantasy quarterbacks all the time. I get you hate Greg Roman, but I know there's one thing about Jim Harbaugh. He's going to have to compete in that division, and they're going to have to score points in that division. So
yep.
I'm not scared of Herbert at all. And yeah, speaking of a buy, Herbert seems like a good buy.
Oh, for sure. And I think it'll be interesting. We've seen a lot of mock drafts with the possibility of Brock Bowers going to the Chargers.
Even Neighbors.
I don't know that the Chargers would do that. I think they would either go Malik Neighbors or somewhere on the offensive line to help protect Herbert, even though they've got they always seem like they have a really good offensive line on paper, but then they don't play well on the field.
Pimpkin and Slate. Was it Slater
Yeah, Rashawn Slater, and they got the kid
Pimpkin?
Pipkins?
Pipkins?
Wasn't he in Lord of the Rings, Pipkins? Oh, that was Pippin.
Pimpkins, like the video game on Nintendo Switch with the little flower.
Pikmin?
No, they got a good offensive line. I
know Lindsley's going to retire, it looks like.
Yeah, tight end they could definitely use, but we're seeing that more teams could go back to later on.
Imagine if they go Neighbors and then they go like Jatavian Sanders in round 2 if he's there.
See, I'm not as big on Sanders, but we'll get into that as we get into rookies. I think it's Brock Bowers and trade for Musgrave if you can't find anybody else. Like those are my options. There's tons of trade candidates, especially if you're in the early second or mid second and you're looking at a tight end you need. Start trading for these vets. Pat Freiermuth. I know everybody hates because Arthur Smith, but Arthur Smith.
I don't hate Freiermuth. It was just one of those. Again, it's one of those teams where like, what's the quarterback play going to look like? Because him and Pickett had a little thing going on for a bit, and then Freiermuth is another one of these guys, like Njoku was in his younger career, is that he's dinged up a lot. We all know that Freiermuth's got a history with concussions too, but when Freiermuth's on the field, he typically produces pretty well. It was definitely a down year. I think Freiermuth is a good buy in respect to that. He's still really young. He's only 25 years old. He's coming up on a free agent contract, so he could move teams. I got a couple questions for you, though, Tyler.
Yeah.
When I'm looking at some of these top 12 tight ends, the one guy that sticks out to me that I don't think should be a top 12 tight end, according to DLF ADP in January, hopefully February will be out sometime soon. The one that kind of sticks out to me that I want nothing to do with is Dallas Goedert at tight end 11.
You're not the only one. He's the thing
never
is,
done it.
You talk to any NFL execs, and everything they talk about is Dallas Goedert's one of the best all-around tight ends in the league. He's great at blocking. He sets up things, but it doesn't help us in fantasy. You don't get points for that. Devonta Smith and AJ Brown hopefully are there to stay. So yeah, I've never been big on Goddard. He's always been one of those guys where you have him for 3 games and you could win a week, but after that you're getting 6 points maybe.
Ugh.
Yeah,
I would rather have. I think Cole Kmet should be in that spot. And he's currently tight end 14. I would actually put Cole Kmet
above Jake Ferguson.
I would put him at tight end 10 and feel pretty comfortable. You know what? This is a hot take for you. I would rather have, because the way that they have these, the ADP is not how I would have this order. I would actually rather have a 24-year-old Cole Kmet than a 31-year-old George Kittle.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I honestly, value-wise, I would trade Kyle Pitts to get Cole Kmet plus. Like that's where I'm at. Because I think Kyle Pitts holds the value, especially with Jonnu getting cut. I'd rather have Cole Kmet. I mean, he's a Notre Dame tight end. Let's talk Michael Mayer. Michael Mayer, the biggest tight end buy of all time right now.
Yeah, and I think the thing with Pitts, too, is that if you're going to make a move like that, you wait and see what Atlanta does at quarterback, because if they draft a guy or trade for a guy, Kyle Pitts' value is only going to go up because they're going to do something at the quarterback position.
Yeah.
We just don't know what it is yet. But as soon as they get a new quarterback in there, Pitts will start to creep up again. And that's when you, ideally, if you want to be like, you know what, I want to pivot and tier down and go to Kmet plus, that's when you want to do it.
Yeah. I mean, if Justin Fields goes there, Fields loves tight ends. If, say, Sam Howell gets traded there, Sam Howell absolutely loves tight ends. He loves the middle of the field. So, yeah, we're talking almost any situation is great, unless it's like a Ryan Tannehill, then get the fuck out.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Ferguson at tight end 10 is a little surprising. I mean, he's young. He's only 25. He did have a great year with Dak in his first year as a starter, but to me, it's like Dallas can just plug in any of these guys and get them productive. I mean, Dalton Schultz wasn't anything until he broke out. Who was the guy?
Luke Schoonmaker.
No, not him. It was before Schultz was there.
Schultz.
It was another white tight end. It was in between Witten and Schultz, I feel. There was a tight end there, and he had a good fantasy year, and then he was like disappeared. I mean, I'll never forget Rico Gathers, but it's not him.
It's not Hendershot.
No, he's not in the NFL anymore.
Okay.
You talk for a minute. I'll look it up.
All right. Yeah, I'm not sure, but let's get into some other ones like Isaiah Likely. What if they were to open up some cap space and deal Mark Andrews and be like, hey, we'll go Likely. Likely's pretty much an even swap. We'll save some money. I mean, there's another option for teams, but like Dalton Schultz, do we think he's staying with Houston? I don't think so. I don't think so. They'll probably put their money into running back for a couple years. Cade Otton, I mean, if you want something, like imagine Cade Otton in Dallas's offense instead of Jake Ferguson. You'd probably get the same numbers, right?
Probably.
Like Cade Otton, I think Cade Otton might have a little more run after the catch than, and that's saying a lot, than Jake Ferguson. Like we got Darren Waller on the back. If we're going Dynasty and we go down the row, I know they say Brock Bowers could fall to Indy, but a sneaky guy you could probably go out and get for dirt cheap, maybe on the free agent wire, is Will Mallory. Doug, I know he's an athletic guy, something you look for. You like him too.
He got some targets in his rookie year from Gardner Minshew. I think here's a buy for me when we talk about the Colts. It's Jelani Woods because of the size and athleticism. I think he's totally forgotten about in dynasty circles. That, you know, he came out his rookie year, he flashed a little bit, and then he didn't really play at all last year. And the Cowboys tight end I was thinking of is Blake Jarwin.
Yes, Blake Jarwin. Yes. Another tight end, Doug, I know you were on him and you've talked about him a couple times, but Davis Allen. There's been more.
Yeah.
Like even the Footballers podcast said, like, hey, Davis Allen, you need to go out and get, because Higbee will probably be a pup candidate and Davis Allen will probably be somebody who gets on the field the first 8 weeks.
Yeah, Allen's not as athletic as Higbee, but he's a solid player. He flashed, and when he got some starts towards the end of the season, he had that really nice game where I think he had like 6 for 70 and a touchdown and looked really good breaking tackles and making guys miss. And here's the thing, like the Rams aren't going to go and spend money on a free agent tight end. That's just not how they do it. I mean, Higbee's a homegrown guy. Davis Allen has opportunity, and I was able to pick him up in a couple dynasty rosters as a UDFA. And just stash him on my taxi, because like anytime I'm a bit of a tight end hoarder. You know, he went to a major program. He went to Clemson. He was fairly successful there, and his athleticism, he tested fairly well. So I'm like, you know what? I'll put him on my taxi. It's kind of like running backs, because opportunities come up. So if you want to have like, oh, I'll pick up Jaleel McLaughlin, maybe he'll become something. And now it looks like he could be a contributor in the league, not like a every week starter, but he's earned a roster spot for me off my taxi. So guys like that's how in the past I picked up Austin Eckler, Matt Breida, guys that like they didn't get drafted in rookie drafts, but I was like, all right, I like this player's profile and athleticism, so I'll give him a flyer. And sometimes they work out really. Jalen Warren is another one. That guys like that. I mean, this year it's going to be Dylan Lobb from UNH. Is one of the guys that like he may not get drafted.
What's his last name?
Drafts. Lob.
Lob.
Laube.
Like Love.
Loeb.
Like the singer Love.
Loeb. I don't know. Guys like that, or what's the other kid? The Schrader. He's another guy.
Oh yeah.
Cody Schrader is another guy. That
I think he'll be drafted.
He'll probably
like
get picked in rookie
6th,
draft because
7th.
we have 5th rounds. But
and he's known.
If those guys sneak through, those are the kind of guys I want to add. So I'm the same thing at tight end. I kind of bulk add them. Will Mallory, I have on a ton of taxis. Davis Allen is another example.
You know what?
Cole Turner on a bunch.
It's literally because it's a onesie position. Like we're talking, like if you think about it, running backs. There's one on the field for each team, so you want the backups. You want to go down the depth chart. Tight end. There's maybe 2 on the field at once. One, depending on what offense you run, but there's 1 star. And you want like Isaiah Likely. Everybody was pissed Isaiah Likely went to the Ravens, but now look at him. Now his value's skyrocketing, and then quarterback's another one where now all of a sudden quarterbacks people want the backups because in Superflex, if you don't
60 different starters in a year.
If you don't have your backup, like I have Josh Allen's backup in UDPL because if he gets hurt, I know people are gonna be like, hey, Tyler needs a quarterback. Tyler's gonna give up anything for a quarterback. You know what? No, because I got myself Kyle Allen. I'm good.
I mean, as soon as I heard that Joe Flacco was visiting the Browns, I picked him up in leagues.
Yeah.
And it worked out. Like, it was great, but that doesn't always happen. But I was like, you know what? What does it hurt? Like, I'd rather have him than not have him if he ends up being a starter. That's just kind of how I'm at.
100%. I think all backup quarterbacks should be on in Dynasty.
The one beautiful thing about the tight end position this year is that where we're seeing a lot of these young players increasing the amount of depth on these rosters is I see a lot of tight ends outside the top from 24 below that I want pieces of. And I'm going to throw out some names, Tyler, and you give me your opinion. So
no, you give me 2, then I'm going to give you 2.
All right.
And then you give me the rest.
I'm going to go with these guys back to back because they're tight end 24 and tight end 25. The first one is Greg Dulcich, who is 23 years old. Everybody forgot about Greg Dulcich on the Denver Broncos. He had a lost season in year 2, but we saw him flash in year 1. Now, he's not necessarily a Sean Payton guy, so we'll see what happens there. But, they traded Albert Okwuegbunam away, and we all thought, oh, it's Dulcich season. And then the tight end was pretty much a void for them last year. They didn't have anyone that contributed at the position, I felt, really at all from a fantasy perspective. So Dulcich is a guy at tight end 24 that I really like a lot because his price is insanely cheap. Another athletic tight end. And we've seen that he can do some things in the league. The guy right after him was my tight end 3 in that class out of the University of Miami, a virtual tight end factory, if you will, outside of Iowa. It's Brevin Jordan from the Houston Texans. Love the athleticism, although, you know what? He didn't test all that well at the combine, and I think that hurt him in the NFL draft. He ends up getting drafted by the Texans, has a weird kind of career to start off with, and then gets dropped in dynasty leagues. And I picked him up in all the leagues I had room for him because I really like Brevin Jordan.
Except one.
And then you see Brevin Jordan flash. He has that long touchdown in the playoff game for the Houston Texans. And Dalton Schultz is a free agent. Brevin Jordan is as well, I believe. And it's not going to cost nearly as much to get Brevin Jordan back on the team. But he is the type of tight end that reminds me of like a Gerald Everett. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Like if he's your tight end 2, that's a win. You picked
Gerald
him up
never
for
got
nothing.
paid.
Yeah. So I think Brevin Jordan could be, maybe his ceiling is Gerald Everett. And I'm okay with that because you know what? I don't have anything invested in him. I picked him up for free in leagues. And so those are 2 guys back-to-back, tight end 24 and 25, Dulcich and Jordan.
All right, I already said a couple, but Noah Gray is another one I still really like.
He's still only 24.
Yeah, and he was, if you go back to his Duke tape, he was nothing special, but he was always there. He always found open pockets, and you're like, wow, that's kind of what Kelsey can do. being behind Kelsey and learning from him, I think he is a free agent this year. I want to say it's his 4th year, maybe 3rd,
Might be, yeah.
but I want to say he's up for contract. I think he could be a guy that gets a spot and gets a chance, maybe as a tight end too, somewhere worth at the team that's needy. But Doug, I know you've said it before. Noah Fant, I still think there's something there. I think that if he goes to a team that needs tight end, that has an empty slot, he could be their tight end one and actually be something because he's never the focal point.
I would love to see him go to the Patriots.
Well, how about Houston? He goes to Houston on a cheap deal.
I've seen that one too. I mean, that would obviously kind of block my Brevin Jordan, but I'd rather have Jordan stay in Houston, but I get it. For me, if Fant were to go to the Patriots, because we know that the targets are going to be there because they lose Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki in free agency. They literally have nobody on the come up at the tight end position. So Noah Fant could go to the Patriots. They have money, and they probably wouldn't have to pay him a ton.
Yeah.
And he goes there, and he has the opportunity to be the guy. And I think that would be a perfect situation. You know, they're going to upgrade at quarterback no matter what they do. We know Mac's not going to be the starter, at least we hope not. And, you know, their most talented receiver is Demario Douglas. They're probably going to add someone through free agency or the draft. But, man, I think Noah Fant landing there would be he could get a 20% target share in that offense for the Patriots. So I would love that. And he does a little bit of everything, which, you know, Gerard Mayo's the coach now. He's from the Belichick coaching tree. So, I mean, I can draw some connections there. So I would like Noah Fant to go there.
Yeah,
and people
that's not a
forget how
bad
good
fit.
he is.
Yeah, he's super athletic. He made a couple plays last year where you're like, there he is. There's the guy.
100%. I'll give you one very similar to what you said, if he goes somewhere to be the starter. And this is a guy that former Mackey Award winner, always been behind another tight end. He's been the starter a little bit here and there, and he's shown some flashes. He's one of these guys that's a complete tight end. Maybe he's not good enough to be super fantasy relevant, but he has the opportunity. It's Harrison Bryant. He's been with the Cleveland Browns. He's now a free agent. He's 25 years old. I could see him going somewhere, a team that's not looking to spend a ton. Maybe it's the Chargers. They go the Harrison Bryant route, and he goes there with Herbert. Like, because Gerald Everett, I believe, is a free agent. You know,
Yep.
Darnold Parham's always there, like, forever, it seems like. He's not a fantasy starter. He'll catch, 4 or 5 touchdowns because he's massive in the end zone. But maybe a Harrison Bryant goes there, and it's not going to take much to get him, but that's another guy that, like Brevin Jordan, was free in leagues that I was starting to add because I looked at the future and said, all right, he's a player that I've liked coming out of college. I've liked his NFL tape. I don't think he's been bad by any means. I think he's a complete tight end.
Just been hurt.
Yeah, and then this might be his opportunity to really, come in and be a starter, because at the tight end position, it happens this way more than it does other positions. And that's something that I'm kind of banking on.
Yeah. Harbaugh is going to bring Jake Butt out of retirement.
Oh my God. There's a name I have not heard for a while, is Jake Butt. I was going to say, I might have lost Tyler's audio, but Jake Butt, yeah, Michigan tight end. I know Michigan's got a stud tight end on their roster. I think he's eligible next year. I just don't remember his name, but another tight end that I am looking at, and Hunter Henry. Remember when Hunter Henry was like a top 5 dynasty tight end?
What if he goes to the Chargers?
He goes back to the Chargers. I still think Hunter Henry's good. I mean, he was the most reliable pass catcher for the Patriots last year. 2 years removed from an 8-touchdown season. I still think he's good enough to be a fantasy starter, depending on where he lands.
His career has been interesting. Like with the Chargers, he was a run after the catch guy, was everywhere, athletic as could be. He was everywhere. And then goes to the Patriots, and it's like, you're a touchdown guy. Here you go. And you forget like how athletic he is.
Yeah, his year 1 with the Pats was really good. And then, then everything kind of went downhill after there.
Well, everything did.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
All right.
I lost
we good with tight end?
I do want to mention one other. Actually, no, I think I am good.
All right.
Yeah.
So next week, I do want to give people a heads up. Next week, we're gonna have Leo Pasiga. Is that his last name?
Pasiga, that is correct. Yep.
Yes. We're gonna have him on, and we're gonna go over trades and strategies because
there's no one better to talk about.
Yes.
Than Leo.
I mean, he came up with the black book where you write down all the strategies of all the people in your league.
You're pretty much scouting other managers.
Yes, and I found that I wanted to invite him on because I actually had an incident this past week where I offered something that easily would have been accepted in any other league.
Mm-hmm.
But in a home league, it was different. And in a league where it was also contracts, it was different. Like, so for me, I like letting people know like the difference of trading, who you're trading with, what you need to do, what you need to prepare for each and every time before you even send the offer, what you need to do. So we're having Leo on. It's one of my bucket list interviews. I have never had him on because he retired from the game before we could have him on. And he's back. He's writing now again, I think for Football Guys. So yeah, he's back and he is coming on next week and to talk trades.
Yeah, which would be great. I'm actually in a league with Leo. It's an industry redraft league that we do with the FF engineer Kevin O'Brien hosts that, and there's a lot of fun guys. Pete Overzet's in that league. Pat Thorman, Andrew Cooper's in that league. So it's a lot of fun. I feel like I'm probably the most amateur person in that whole group, and that's fine. I make the playoffs almost every year, so I'm doing something right. But Leo's great, and we hang out at SFB Boston during the draft. I hang out. His son comes with him and hangs out, which is awesome. So. Leo's a great dude, really easy to talk to, so I'm looking forward to that too, to have him on and to share his knowledge, because I think he's one of the more tactical Dynasty strategists out there when it comes not to players necessarily, but when it comes to knowing your competition and using the knowledge on the fringe and using it to your advantage. No one's mastered it like he has.
Yeah, he knows your weakness for trading, and he will attack it, and you won't even know it. All of a sudden you look at the trade and be like, wait, how did he get him added in? And you're like, what would I do?
Yeah, he's like a ninja with that stuff, and it's one of the more fascinating things that he's brought to the space is how he does that. And I've been influenced by some of that. I know a lot of the managers in my leagues that have been in for a while. I know what they like, and I kind of tend to cater to that to get my way sometimes. And it's by listening to him and following him that applying some of those skills has really paid off. So he's going to be here next week to talk all about it. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So that is going to wrap us up for this week. Tyler, it's been a pleasure. I can't wait to talk to Leo next week. Make sure you check us out on iTunes, leave a review, leave a nice rating on there would be great too. And if you watch us on YouTube or Facebook, make sure you drop a like and subscribe on the YouTube is always helpful. No sponsor shout outs this week because I don't have a show sheet. So when I'm not a show sheet, I'm like Ron Burgundy. Like you can put anything on there. But when I don't have it, I'm terrible with ad drops. So we'll figure that out. Maybe I'll take up the mantle on the show sheet going forward because James was our show sheet guy. So we'll figure that out. First podcast in the new setup. So we'll get it popping and get it a little tight like a tiger going forward.
Yeah, we don't want to be too tight. We want it to be loosed up a little bit because you know what? We just like kind of going off the cup and seeing what comes out.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
No. So. And if you're a sponsor of ours, just go back and listen to last week's. Go back and listen to the wide receiver.
They're not following up on us. We're just a little Dynasty podcast that's been around for a bit. We're not one of these big guys anymore. Like we're just kind of like hanging out and doing our thing.
Yeah, we're all the big name people, the footballers and stuff. They took our jobs. They took our space. This was supposed to be us. This was our space.
That's fine. They put a lot of work in. I don't have the time or bandwidth.
Oh, I still listen to him,
so it's okay.
I still listen to him, so.
Yeah, I mean, I listen to some podcasts too, but I get it. All right, for the Dynasty Happy Hour, this has been Doug. He's Tyler. You guys have a great time, and we'll see you next week with our guest, Leo Casita. Have a good one. Enjoy the combine.